You can learn everything you need to know about a person the moment you say no. Not because saying no is rude, but because no creates friction, and that friction reveals their real intentions. Welcome to the Human Code, where we decode human behavior, one pattern at a time. Today, we breaking down what I call the boundary script, the predictable steps some people use to push past your limits without ever looking like the villain. This is for educational purposes only. It's about building awareness, not putting labels on people. The fastest way to break a boundary is almost never a big, obvious request. It's a tiny one. One you feel silly refusing. A quick favor. A small exception. Just a little extra time. Because the moment you say yes to that small thing, something important changes. Your boundary stops being a firm rule and becomes a negotiation. That's why just this once is almost never just once. It's a test. It's not always a malicious or conscious test, but it serves the same function. It measures how movable you are. Once you hesitate, the script usually moves to one of three pressure tools. The first is minimizing. You'll hear things like, "It's not a big deal," or "Don't worry about it." The translation is, your boundary shouldn't matter as much as their request. It's a subtle way of telling you that your feelings are an overreaction. The second tool is urgency. I need an answer right now. This is time sensitive. Urgency is a powerful tactic because it blocks your ability to think clearly. Given time, you can access your logic and your feelings. But pressure removes that time, forcing you into a decision before you're ready. The third tool, and perhaps the most powerful, is guilt. If you really cared, you would. I thought we were friends. This is a big one. It shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you're not making a decision based on your own capacity, your energy, or your limits. You're making a decision based on your fear of being seen as selfish, uncaring, or a bad person. If those tools don't work, the script often escalates into a role flip. This is where, suddenly, you become the problem. You're the one who's being difficult. You'll hear phrases like, "You're being so dramatic," or "Why you're making this weird," or the classic, "You've changed." And my personal favorite, "I guess I just can't say anything around you anymore." This move isn't even about the original request anymore. It's about your identity. It's a strategic maneuver designed to make you prove you still a good or easygoing person by abandoning your boundary. So here's the real test. The one that separates a healthy dynamic from a boundary-pushing one. What happens after you say no, firmly and without a long explanation? Healthy people, healthy relationships, healthy workplaces. They might feel disappointed, sure. But they adjust, they respect it. Boundary pushers, on the other hand, don't adjust, they punish. They might withdraw affection, they get cold. They might bring up old favors they did for you, subtly implying you now owe them. They make your no incredibly expensive to maintain. And that's the fundamental truth. A boundary is only a real boundary if it is allowed to exist without you being punished for it. So, if you find that your simple no consistently turns into a long debate, or you feel like you're in a courtroom, cross-examining yourself and defending your needs, you're not in a conversation. You're in a negotiation for access to your time, your energy, and your resources. Here's a simple line you can try. "I'm not available for that." That's it. No story. No long defense. No extra detail, because remember, the more you explain, the more ammunition you give them to argue with. If you want to learn more about patterns like this, subscribe to the Human Code, and let me know in the comments. What is the most common line someone has used to try and push your boundary? Thanks for watching.